This is the Healthy Business Podcast, the show for ambitious business owners who want to grow and scale in a healthy way. I'm Sarah Cook, and I'll be sharing with you tips, inspiration, and proven methods from leading business experts, entrepreneurs, and health and wellness professionals to help you grow your business with more income and having more impact, but in a way that works for you. Because when you have clarity and strategy, you can achieve the results you want. Hello and welcome to today's episode of the Healthy Business Podcast. I'm joined by the wonderful Amanda Cole, and I'm so excited to have Amanda on because she really focuses on mindset and how we can be unstoppable within our business, but she takes an approach from a hypnotherapy perspective. So Amanda is an accredited hypnotherapist, but she's also a hypnobirthing practitioner and works with people all around the world. So I'm super excited to have you join us, Amanda. I love these kind of conversations where we bring guest experts in of just delving into the other sides of business and how we can really be unstoppable within our business. So thank you for joining me.
That's all right. Thank you so much for having me. Real pleasure.
Oh, I'm excited to see where the conversation goes. I think one of the things that I know lots of my listeners love to hear is the question that I ask everybody, and that is what a healthy business means to you. And I'd love your thoughts on this.
Yeah. I think for me, healthy business is about having that kind of drive and commitment and the guts and work ethic, but also being able to have time for me as well. I don't like to use the word balance. I think that can be misconstrued sometimes, but yeah, having the passion and having the fulfillment in your business, that's super important. And sometimes it's balancing the energy. So that kind of masculine energy, kind of being in the doing all that hard work and action taking, and then versus being in the feminine energy, and just letting things flow and taking a break when you need to and having a rest. And yeah, so I think a healthy business for me would be, trying to balance, in inverted commas, the masculine and the feminine energy, but also having the passion and fulfillment with everything that you're doing.
Oh, I love that. And I think it's so easy, isn't it, to kind of forget when we're in business that actually we do need to let things flow sometimes, especially when we're ambitious and we're pushing hard for results and we're really trying to hit our goals. And that, as you say, feels very much the action, the let's go. But actually, for so many of us, especially us women, when we go into flow, those results can actually happen a lot easier and quicker. And it's just having that balance. Of course, we need to push. Of course, we need to work hard, but actually doing that in a way that feels good for us, that gives us that fulfillment, that has that alignment. I love that take on the question. Thank you for sharing that. And in some ways, I suppose, it's not a massive surprise with what you do of just, helping people feel more calm and more confident in what they're doing. And, tell us a little bit about what you do and how you help people, and also how you got into hypnotherapy as well.
So I'm a registered accredited hypnotherapist. I think, well, first of all, I guess getting into hypnotherapy, I actually qualified back in 2013. So it's been 10 years, can't believe that. But I did it because I'd always had a passion for health, well-being, and it was always a bit of a side thing, and I'd had other businesses as well within kind of health and wellness. Nothing quite hit the mark like doing the hypnotherapy, and I really loved it. But I got very caught up in my corporate full-time job. It's very difficult to, be able to manage something on the side when you're working full-time. So it wasn't until 2017 when I had my little boy, who's now 6. So he and I discovered hypnobirthing, and I'd heard about it, and I thought, well, I'm pregnant now, I'm going to give it a go. And it was that really reignited all my passions for, obviously being a mom and, moving into parenthood and health and wellness, and really focusing on women's well-being as well and mental health. So it was that really. And then following on from that, I actually had a horrible thing happen during COVID, where I got made redundant from my job, and it was all very turbulent. But actually, it really kick-started my thinking of, well, what do I want to do? I've got this opportunity to either go back to work, carry on with the slog, or kind of follow my dreams, as it were. And I went for it. Yeah, so the business started kind of near the end of COVID, at the beginning of 2021. And yeah, I got back into it, qualified as a hypnobirthing practitioner at that point. And then I had my own little girl, so she's almost 2. So obviously, as you do, you have to get pregnant during lockdown. And yeah, so that's kind of how it all came about. And yeah, I've been doing it ever since. Yeah, I get so much fulfillment from seeing those client transformations, and watching them go through these different stages, and hearing the feedback, and yeah, hearing after even like 2, 3, 4 sessions the huge difference it's already making in their daily lives. So yeah, I love it.
And you're flying. Like, I love supporting you. You're just amazing at what you do, and seeing the results that you get with clients is amazing. And I think talking about that transformation, I think sometimes people can get a little bit nervous around what hypnotherapy is, or how they're going to react during sessions. Because I think we were talking about this before we came live around the media world doesn't help hypnotherapists, does it? The kind of becoming or pretending to act like a chicken dancing on a stage, or that kind of thing. And hypnotherapy is not really like that. Tell us, I want to bust some myths around hypnotherapy. I found it amazing. And I know that, so many people do, but there's a lot of people who are nervous, or even sort of unsure about how it can help them.
Yeah, and I think that's what it is. It is perpetuated by the media, and that you see kind of Darren Brown, and all these other people on stage, which is a very, very different thing to what actual hypnotherapists do. And we emphasize the word therapy. It is hypno, but therapy, and it is a form of talk therapy, similar to counselling or psychotherapy. And it is recommended by the NHS. Quite often I get referrals from GPs and clients coming to me, and it's very well known for helping with smoking. It's breaking habits, and releasing fears and phobias, things like that. But equally, the majority of referrals I get is for anxiety related issues, because it can really have a positive effect, because it reframes the thoughts, and sometimes people don't always understand how it works. And you're going to be in control the whole time, and this is what I always say to my clients: you're fully in control. You may well nod off, but you're never going to be in a deep sleep. You're kind of floating around that in between awake and asleep zone, if you're in the zone. And you're hearing everything I'm saying. You're compass mentis to an extent. So there's nothing to be worried about. And obviously, all hypnotherapists, the same as any other therapist, we adhere to a code of conduct and ethics, and all of that. So there's never anything to be worried about, and it's certainly not a woo-woo thing like it may have been considered 20, 30 years ago. It is super effective, and I think a lot of people don't realize it's actually, I think it's 93% more effective, especially with anxiety disorders, than regular psychotherapy or counselling, because we're speaking to the subconscious, we're getting to the root of the issue. I could go on about it all day. How it works.
And I think that in some ways, this is what these conversations are for, is to, maybe bust some myths, or if people are a bit curious, but are nervous about having that conversation, or even messaging you and say, well, I'm not really sure what it works. Because especially when we're, ambitious business owners and we know our zone of genius, we kind of feel that pressure that we should know a certain amount of lots of things. And sometimes there's that sort of worry about judgment, isn't there, of kind of, I'm not really sure what this is about, but it might be something that I'm interested in. But yeah, and I think 2 things you really spoke about there, of the releasing anxiety, and the even just releasing the fears and the blocks and beliefs that we have probably been holding on to for a really, really long time. And I know this from my sort of positive psychology coaching as well, of just, our brain likes to validate things, doesn't it? It likes to look for evidence. So if we have this belief about something, then our brain looks for that to really validate that as well. And it's not until we shift the internal thought process that our brain can then start looking for a revalidation or different evidence of things. And I think in its really simplest term, from my perspective, it is a lot around that, of just going, actually, let's unblock some of these things, so you can go off and do these things that you really do want to achieve, and actually you can achieve.
Yeah, definitely. And as you say, so many clients that I work with, you know, it's things that they've been hanging on to for, you know, since childhood. And quite often it's, you know, it's not necessarily childhood trauma or anything like that. It's just beliefs, you know, things that they've grown up with, the environment that they've been in, you know, the consistent messages that they've been hearing. It's all, well, we kind of live in a hypnotic state every day without really knowing. You know, we're picking up, you know, things that are around us all the time, and that's being stored in our subconscious. And I think people don't always realize that, you know, our subconscious does rule over 90% of our kind of daily actions, thoughts and beliefs and habits, and you know, so much else. All our past experiences are there. And as you say, if something comes up that's different and we're not necessarily in complete agreement with, it's our conscious mind filtering it through to the subconscious, and the subconscious is like, well, I've had this belief for like 20 years, so there's no way that you're going to change that now, you know. And it's this constant, you know, back and forth conflict. And it's not until we then bypass that and kind of get into the deep subconscious in that really relaxed state, which is what hypnotherapy is all about. It's so easy for the client, they literally just lay in a lovely relaxed state for an hour, then you know, and that's how we can then tap into those, you know, potentially negative thoughts, limiting beliefs about yourself, or, you know, what you can and can't do, things like that. And that's where we can change it, because I think just speaking to the conscious mind, as much as it does work over a period of time, with hypnotherapy we can get to the subconscious quickly, and we can have that huge impact and the effectiveness much quicker. It can be done within weeks, maybe months. You know, you're not in therapy, as it were, for years and years, like you could potentially be in other forms of therapy. So yeah, it's so powerful, and people don't know it.
It is. It's so powerful. I mean, it's really interesting because I get people that come to me and say, oh, I just want the strategy. I want to know how I can get more sales. How do I get more clients? And, you know, when we can work through a strategy, but I always find it really interesting, those that have done some mindset work or understand the power of that, because I can give you the best strategy in the world, but if you don't take action on that, and that's normally related to the beliefs that you have, that strategy is just going to stay stuck there and it's not going to get the results that you want to. And I think it is that combination of the two, of going, actually, you have to have the right mindset, the right energetics, to be able to turn that strategy into you becoming unstoppable. I'm going to use your words on that, because it is all possible. And I think it's that, for me especially, it wasn't until I did the mindset stuff. Like, I knew all the stuff that I needed to do, but there were things that were holding me back, or there were perceptions of what other people thought, and all the, you know, all the kind of judgment that we all feel. And I think the other thing to sort of probably touch on here is that it's a constant thing, isn't it? Like, our brain has been used to thinking in for such a long way that we have those wobbles as we try new things. Our brain wants to keep us safe. And it's like, okay, how do we have that, as you said, that internal conflict, that internal dialogue of going, it's okay to try these things. And actually, if you do try them, you're going to push those edges that bit further and see what happens. Now, you use a 4-step process to support people through this. Talk us through that.
Yeah, I mean, it really depends, because everybody comes with, you know, nobody's the same. Everybody comes with something slightly different, but I tend to try and use kind of the 4-step process. And so the first thing that we look at is kind of identifying, you know, some self-reflection. So, you know, people have to have a look at themselves, you know, and it's about accepting things as well, because, you know, once we've identified and then accepted, then we can start moving forward. So, you know, we really think about what's not allowing you, you know, in your life at the moment to be calmer, to be more confident, you know, or to thrive in your business. You know, what is there keeping you stuck in the old habits, the old patterns and cycles? And I think for so many of the, I mean, I predominantly work with women, so many of the women that I work with, you know, a lot of them are juggling work, they're juggling motherhood, the house, you know, they're responsible for it all. And they're stuck in this, I love calling it the cycle of busyness. And we're stuck in this cycle of busyness. And it does seem to be a woman thing, which is unfortunate. But, you know, and so many people, the first thing that they will say is, I've got too much on, I'm overwhelmed with everything. And it is. And I kind of show them a bit of a diagram sometimes, the cycle of busyness, with the overwhelm perpetuating the stress, perpetuating the guilt, perpetuating anxiety, comparisons. We're, as women, we're always comparing ourselves to, well, oh, she's got it all figured out, and then that perpetuates that sort of lack of belief in ourselves, lack of self-worth. And then it rolls on to lack of self-care because we're so busy. So we are just stuck in the cycle of busyness all the time. And it's really identifying that and accepting what's going on in your life and what things may need to shift and change. And obviously everything's got underlying causes. So people that come to me for hypnotherapy, I mean, it might be just an example, simple, right? I feel really anxious whenever I get in the car.
Yeah.
Okay, well, I mean, people might think, oh, well, have you had an accident in the car? And obviously we go through all the top level questions and things like that. But actually, it could transpire, there's it sounds extreme, but there's a fear of dying because of something that happened 25 years ago that they'd not even thought about in 25 years. And it's peeling back the layers with the questionings that we do within the sessions, to really dig down and find that nugget, that it's that needs to be released, nothing to do with getting in a car, or being on a motorway or something, peeled it right back. Some of it, I find it fascinating how the human brain works, and
it's amazing what we hold on to. It really is. It's just, I mean, I've been through a few times and I'm like, I had no idea that I was holding on to that.
Exactly. And it's, it is that it's kind of that realization, I think, and then accepting that, the support is there and it would be helpful to have it, and having that investment in yourself and on your business, because I think if you are in a really good space, then your business is going to be in a really good space. So that's kind of the first step of, what we do, initially with any client that comes to me, no matter what they come to me about, we really dig down and have a good look. But so then after that, it's very much moving on to the releasing, so just letting go, like what we've been saying, so releasing and letting go of things. So whether it's releasing the overwhelm or the stress, anxiety, really getting back in control of your own thoughts. So a lot of people come to me and say, they have that kind of inner critic, they're talking themselves out of things, or as humans we're just geared towards the negative, and that's right back from evolutionary times. We're just geared towards the negative, and it can be hard for people to keep that control of their own thoughts and not spiral down, into the negative rabbit hole. So it's really trying to release all of that, and overcome any limiting beliefs that you have about yourself or your business, and it, like what we were saying, any blocks. And I think a lot of women that come to me, there seems to be an element of perfectionism. We want to be perfect, and it can be really frustrating, and again, it's perpetuated by the comparisons and the mum guilt and all these other things. And I think for women and women business owners as well, and mums, it's so important to just let go of that perfectionism, because nobody's perfect. Who the hell cares?
And what even is perfect anyway, right?
Exactly.
And I say that as a recovering perfectionist.
And me, oh God, I think I've probably 75% gotten over most of it. But it's hard. It is hard because you want to do a good job, and if you're sort of that conscientious person, you want it to be A-okay, and you want your kids to be proud of you, and but it's juggling all the balls, and so some of this we do, and we talk about it, and being able to release it and then start to overcome some of it as well. It's which is obviously the real bulk of what we do within the hypnotherapy with all those positive suggestions. We're releasing what we don't want, what's no longer serving us, and we're bringing in that new positive reframed thoughts, more calm, more confident, more in control. And
I love that. I love it. Okay.
So there's 2 more steps.
And they're amazing. I love it. I love the fact that you have this kind of really simple framework that allows people to navigate through things. And I think, again, it goes back to busting that myth around hypnotherapy of actually it's not a woo-woo complicated, smoke and mirrors type thing. It's actually, it's a real process and the way that you teach it and the way that you help and support people, they get really amazing transformational results on this because of the way that it works and the way that you do it.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah. And I think, like I said, it's not, it doesn't take ages and ages. I've had massive transformations with people in the kind of 3 sessions, 3 1-hour sessions, on a consistent basis. They literally did, 3 weeks, and have had massive breakthroughs, and, it's changed their life. For them specifically, it's been such a life changer. So yeah, which is amazing for me to witness.
So powerful. Yeah. Okay. So tell us about these other 2 steps then.
So then the other two, so once we've released and let go of everything, it is very much then rebuilding. We're rebuilding our confidence, resilience again, which is so important for women, especially, to build that strength and resilience. We're up against challenges so much, and whether it's a work thing, whether it's, your partner, whether it's the kids driving you mad every day, having that resilience is super important. And I try and get people also, to set boundaries. And sometimes people are really frightened around, kind of the whole boundary thing, and, oh, I don't want to put walls up, and I don't want to be that kind of standoffish person. But it's actually the opposite. You're doing yourself such a favor by being able to, you don't have to do it rudely, but be able to say no to more, because how much is that going to then reduce your overwhelm, reduce your stress levels? If you can just be a little more kind of, well, that sounds great, but I probably won't be able to do that this time, or, and it's just kind of educating the clients, especially the ones that come with the anxiety and overwhelm and stress levels and things like that, to get to the point where they're more comfortable at being able to set those boundaries. And usually it is with their boss or their husband, partner, or, or their kids even, the older kids. It's difficult to set boundaries with the young kids. But yeah, and then so we're rebuilding all of that, and as I said previously, it's reiterating that control over your own thoughts, and really being able to move forward, knowing that you've got it, you're absolutely fine, and those thoughts are being reframed subconsciously, without you even realizing, which is another superpower of it all, I think. There's such little effort on the client's part.
It is amazing. I think there's so many things that we can kind of be reminded from this as well, that actually that awareness piece is really key. But actually, once you become aware that you have got some blocks or those limiting beliefs, not to stay stuck in that, and actually to look at getting support from an expert who can help you navigate through those things, because it's so much harder trying to do it on your own. And I think, especially with the way that you work as well, like, we don't know what we don't know, and that's the same across everything. And if someone can take a slightly external lens with those proven frameworks and those tools to help you navigate through that, like, let's collapse time. Like, let's, if you're ambitious and you're wanting to achieve those results, don't stay stuck in where you are at the moment. And that goes for saying with whatever support. But I think, because so much of what we do is around mindset, and it is around those blocks, I think you mentioned it earlier, like, our brain is hardwired to keep us in that negative space. Like, we are conditioned to keep ourselves safe and be on high alert. So we're always looking for potential risks. And that takes us into that sort of negative space as well, of going, and the judgment, I think, as well. So it's okay, how do we flip that? And that isn't an easy piece of work. So to then try and do that on your own as well, and unpick those things that you're holding on to that you don't even realize that you're holding on to. That's hard. It's really hard. And I think it's it's a complete game changer. I think is what sums it up. It's a complete game changer.
No, definitely. And I mean, it's as I say, it is such a transformation, and it doesn't have to be big things either. I mean, obviously, I help people out not just with doing all the hypnotherapy, but just giving people tips that they can implement, on a daily basis and things like that. And it's the little things that you do consistently that then really add up to having a massive impact. So for women especially, I feel more excited once we've done all the release work and we've done the rebuilding, and then the 4th step is moving on to the healing. And it's then, once you've just let go of it, once you've let go of all the stuff, you can then start prioritizing yourself. You can bring in the self-care and the self-compassion and things like that, and it just makes so much sense that once you've kind of cleared everything out, it leaves the space, and it leaves the space for you, because you let go of all of these, as you say, blocks and, negative beliefs and holdbacks. And then suddenly there's space to start thinking about you more, which not enough women do.
And I think, it almost goes back to what you said right at the beginning when you were talking about what healthy business means to you, of sometimes we need to be in this push masculine energy, and sometimes we need to let this creativity flow from the feminine energy side. It's really hard to do that if our brain is in that logical space, and quite often the flow and the ease and the creativity, which is what we all need when we're exploring how to grow our business, because whatever's got us to this point is not going to take you to the next point. So there's something that has to kind of tweak, that has to be changed. But if we can't give ourselves that space to do that, if we can't get into that flow or that creativity in a calm and confident way, then we're going to still stay stuck. And I think it's just, it can end up being this sort of vicious cycle to a certain extent of just, how do we move to that next level when I feel like I'm in that busyness? I feel like I'm doing all the things. I feel like I'm, testing things, trying things. What would you say? So if someone is feeling in that sort of stuck and struggle, and knowing that they need to have some kind of support maybe, or just questioning as to whether this could work for them, what would you say to them? Like, how would you sort of suggest them to sort of take that first step, or some tips around just getting that awareness?
Yeah, I think initially I probably would give them some tips that they could probably implement straight away and start using, sort of mindset wise, to get people used to it, because there's lots of people that have done some sort of kind of mindset self-development work, and others that are, complete novices and haven't touched it before. But equally, I'd probably always start with that first step of being able to sort of identify what's going on with them and getting them to do some of the self-reflection, because as you say, we're stuck in the cycle of busyness, and who has time to sit there for 10 minutes and self-reflect? We don't, do we?
Unless we're told to do it, or forced to do it, or there's some kind of action that was requiring us to do it.
So I can't say that I've self-reflected just off my own back, because I'm busy as well. I'm guilty of it. So I would say to anybody that's feeling overwhelmed, or they've got particular issues that they're worried about, thinking about, concerned about, and wondering whether hypnotherapy can help, then it would literally be a case of just sit and think about it for 10 minutes and just identify what may be stopping you at the moment. And again, some people can come up with lots of stuff and then come to me and say, oh, I think it's this, this, and this. But actually, again, we still peel back. And it might be a bit of that, but actually it's kind of this over here. So I think that's the most important step, really, that self-reflection and being able to realize the underlying layers, which sometimes you can find on your own, and sometimes you do need that support and those specific questions asked of you, to then realize and then accept, actually I can't do this on my own, it's going to be more difficult, it's going to take longer, and then kind of work towards having that support to move forward. And as you say, it can move forward super quick with hypnotherapy.
And we've talked a lot about kind of beliefs and our inner belief system as well. The other thing that I wanted to kind of touch on a little bit is, and it's one of the things that hypnotherapy is known for too, is habits, and kind of breaking on old habits and setting new habits. And we touched on it a little bit, but I think, given the title of our podcast is Healthy Business, and recognizing that actually if we're in our healthiest possible version of ourselves, our business is then going to skyrocket too. We all have habits, and not all habits are bad for us. In fact, some habits are great for us. And it's, habits are one of those things that we just do on a regular basis. But actually, some of us do have unhealthy habits, but we either don't necessarily realize that they are unhealthy, or we know that they're unhealthy, but we're stuck because there's maybe some slight addiction to it, or there's, and I guess I want to touch on this subject because, and not from a shaming or judgmental perspective, but actually sometimes if we've got the mindset piece nailed, there's still something holding us back, and that can actually be our physical health, or the emotional health and sort of spiritual health. I guess we've sort of covered a little bit, but the actual physical health of ourselves, hypnotherapy can really help with that as well, can't it?
Yeah, because there's such it's undeniable that there's a mind-body connection, and I try to explain again, for people that don't quite understand, I try and explain it really simply, that if you feel in your mind you have a thought that you're embarrassed about something, 9 times out of 10 your cheeks will flush, or you'll get sweaty palms, or you'll have a physical reaction, won't you,
Yeah.
to a thought that's going on in your mind. So how people can then deny the mind body connection, I don't know. But yeah, so if you've got, you know, consistent stress, consistent anxiety going on for you, there, that's all kind of mental thoughts going around in your mind. And yes, 100% it has a physical reaction. And lots of people that come to me, they do, you know, again, sometimes come with the top level issue of digestive issues. You know, that's really common. And then again, when we dig down, we realize that there's anxiety caused by, you know, sort of childhood things, and you know that haven't been resolved, and it's manifesting within their bodies. You know, and again, we don't necessarily, within hypnotherapy, we don't necessarily treat the physical symptom, because we don't need to. We treat the, you know, that what's triggering it. We treat the actual root issue and the root cause within our minds, and then 9 times out of 10 it'll resolve the physical issue that's going on. So
very, very powerful. But I think it's a really useful thing to kind of touch on, because I think, you know, some people are like, oh, I do mindset stuff, I know that, I'm okay with that, my beliefs are okay, but then they're feeling burnt out, or they're absolutely exhausted every month, and you know, they're falling sick all the time. And I'm like, okay, there's more to this, and it's not just because you are a poorly person, it's that it's that mind body connection, and actually you know, that optimal level of ourselves in health, in all manners of the word health, is such a huge catalyst on the results we can get within our business. And I think, you know, understanding that and having that link through it is really powerful. And I love that you kind of work with people in all of those different areas as well. If someone's kind of listening to this and going, this sounds really interesting, this sounds really curious, I want to carry on this conversation, where do they find you? Where can they hang out with you?
They can hang out with me on my Instagram. I do loads and loads on my Instagram. So it's just at Amanda Cole Hypnotherapy. It's really easy. Or my website, or obviously people can get in touch. I'm always available on the phone, via email. But normally website and Instagram is my normal hangout.
Amazing. Yes. And we'll make sure all the links go into the show notes as well, so people can click straight through. To kind of bring it all together, I guess, just to share maybe your final, I don't know, 2 or 3 words of wisdom, tips for people to go off with, of really breaking those molds, breaking those things so that they can be unstoppable within their business. What would you say?
I think for me, one of the most important things was, like we mentioned earlier, letting go of that perfectionism to an extent. You know, especially in my business, I am a creative, and I can sit on Canva for a couple of hours just creating, you know, something that could be done in 5 minutes. So I've really had to let go of that. And my new mantra, which I've had for quite a while now actually, is it doesn't have to be perfect, it just has to be done. And I have to speak that out loud now and again and remind myself. So that's a definite that I feel like everybody should just lean towards in business, definitely. And setting the boundaries for me as well, you know, with my partner, to allow me more time, because obviously I've got a 6-year-old and an almost 2-year-old, so you know, squeezing everything in can be hard, but setting those boundaries within my family and for myself as well, you know, that has been a huge thing, you know, with then the knock-on effect of allowing more time for myself, because if I've got that time for me, I'm more productive, I'm less stressed. You know, and that again has the knock-on effect on my business and how well that flows, because I've been in the feminine for a bit and then I can go back to the masculine. But I think tips that people can kind of implement straight away, I just feel like you can, and again, some people might feel like it's a bit woo-woo, but I don't believe in it. It's visualizing things going well and kind of never underestimating the power of positive expectation. Because I think so often, again, because we're geared towards that negative, and if you've got something coming up, you know, even if it's just the school run and you know there's traffic and you never find a parking space and you're 5 miles away from the school and it's raining, all of that, I think, you know, if we can just visualize, or have it in our minds that things are going to go well, it's just that different energy then, isn't it? We're putting that different energy into it straight away. And you'll be surprised. When I actually say this to my hypnobirthing clients, you're not going to move into childbirth thinking it's all going to go wrong, because then it probably will. You want to go into it thinking positive and, visualizing what you do want to happen. Because it's so much more likely to come to fruition then. So I think mindset wise, that would be my ultimate number one top tip with anything, business wise or just life wise, to be able to rely on that power of positive expectation. I think it's so important.
The power of reframe is powerful. I remember having sleep issues a little while ago and just waking up and being like, oh, I'm so tired. How am I going to get through the day? And then I thought, you know what, how can I flip it? And I was like, I've had enough sleep to give me enough energy for the things that I need to do today. Yeah. And just that shift meant that I did so much more, because I was like, it's okay. I'm going to do the things that I need to do and I'll get them done. Whereas had I started and where I was starting in that, I'm just exhausted. Everything feels hard. Everything then takes longer, doesn't it? Because you've told yourself everything's going to be hard.
And it doesn't. It feels laborious, and you don't want to have to do it anyway. And you're stuck in that kind of negative, low mood. And at the end of the day, it just rolls on like that. So it's. I try and do it. I must admit, I can't do it all the time. I often have bad days. Stuff doesn't always go to plan. But I would hope that 80% of the time, the 80-20 rule, and that power of positive expectations. So
amazing. So whoever's listening to this, remember that power of positivity and just leaning into that, and go check Amanda out. She shares amazing content, especially over on Instagram at Amanda Cole Hypnotherapy. Amanda, thank you so much for joining me. It's been an absolute pleasure to chat. And I think we probably could have carried on all day, but something that I'm really passionate about, just recognizing the importance of ourselves and the power that we have with our mind, with our bodies, to be able to create unstoppable success within our business. Thank you so much for being part of this conversation, and I hope you've enjoyed listening to us. If you feel like there's someone else that would benefit from listening to this conversation, then please do send them the link, and we'd love it if you could leave us a review as well. So thank you for listening. I will see you on the next episode. And Amanda, thank you again for joining us.
Thanks, Sarah.
Thanks for listening to the Healthy Business Podcast. To get your free checklist with 1-minute hacks to accelerate your business and find out more about our community, head to my website, sarahcookmarketing.com/healthy business.